Good evening, welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. On the program tonight, a week after the World Health Organization reported that as many as 66 children in Gambia and West Africa may have died after consuming Indian-made cough syrups, major irregularities in manufacture have been found at the facilities of Maiden Pharmaceuticals, the Haryana-based manufacturer of the syrups. A show cause notice has been issued to the company. This says that the firm could not produce a logbook of equipment and instruments used to manufacture and test the drugs in question. Batch numbers of potentially dangerous chemicals which were acquired for the manufacture of cough syrups have not been mentioned. The chemicals include propylene glycol, sorbitol solution and sodium methyl paraben. Now, the company has failed to validate processes and methods in the manufacture of the syrups in question. A batch of propylene glycol, which was analyzed by the company and been declared of standard quality, has failed in certain respects, is what the show cause notice has to say. No in-process testing reports were provided to investigators of the cough syrups in question. There are discrepancies in the date of manufacturing and product permissions which have been given. Now, the Haryana State Drugs Controller has given the company a week to respond to its show cause notice, barring which the manufacturing license may be suspended or cancelled and further legal action taken. So that's what the situation is. This is a very, very important question, because the key issue is this: are we absolutely certain that some of these cough syrups are not sold in India, perhaps by a different name? That's something that we're going to be looking at very, very closely. Joining us on the program, Chinu Srinivasan, co-convener of the All India Drug Action Network, joined by Dr. Gopal Dabade, the member of the All India Drug Action Network, DP Kaushik, spokesperson of the Haryana BJP, Dr. Manish Mandan, head of Department Pediatrics at Paras Hospitals in Gurgaon, and Dr. Sunila Garg, a member of the Lancet Commission COVID India Task Force, one of India's most experienced scientists in this field. Thanks very much for being with us. Chinu Srinivasan, let me come to you first. Are we absolutely certain that none of these four cough syrups, which were banned in Western Africa, in Gambia, are not sold in India or marketed in India using a different name?
Could be what?
Can you hear me, Mr. Srinivasan? Hello? I'll come to you in a moment from now.
I can hear you.
Question to Dr. Gopal Dabade. Mr. Dabade, Dr. Dabade, is there any evidence to suggest that some of these drugs are being used in India?
Well, as of now, there is no way of telling. And it is for the regulatory authorities to make it clear as to whether this drug is particularly available or not. What they should do is they have to go and identify the vendor who has supplied the ingredients, and from there keep a track of all those from the vendor, find out to whom all he has supplied, and then keep a track of all those people whom he has supplied, and find out from each one of them as to whether this toxic substance has been supplied or not. So that is the only way it can be found out, and there is no other way that we can find out. And as of now, I don't know. It's for the regulatory authorities to do it and find it out.
Chinu Srinivasan, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Is there any evidence to suggest that that some of these cough syrups are available in India under a different name?
Well, there is no evidence about whether they are available in a different name. But there is a probability that if the manufacturer has been using this and marketing these syrups and using the same solvent, yes, some of these syrups which are being marketed in India by this manufacturer could be very suspect and could be dangerous and harmful.
And therefore, do you believe that there needs to be an entire, a full-fledged recall of all cough syrups potentially sold by this company in India?
Not only by this company, but all manufacturers making cough syrups using this particular solvent from this particular vendor. That is very important. That is the first step they can take, and ask for recall of all these syrups made by anybody and everybody using this particular batch of the solvent, diethylene glycol.
Dr. Mannan, what is diethylene glycol? Because in order for us to continue with this discussion, it is important to explain to our viewers why it's dangerous, because this is what was found in the drugs in Gambia.
Yeah. So, this is something which is used as an antifreeze agent or sometimes in the brake fluid and all. This is not something which should be used by the pharma industry. It's a very highly poisonous substance. If it gets into the body of a human being, it can, cause significant adverse effects, primarily the renal. It causes effects in three ways. In first stage, it will cause severe metabolic acidosis. Second stage, it will cause kidney failure. And if the patient is not resuscitated, long-term effects, it can cause neuroparalysis and neurological adverse effects also. It's a very dangerous drug. The exact dose of diethylene glycol, we don't know in pediatrics, but in adults, they say it's about 1 ml per kg. So highly dangerous, probably because it is sweet. That's one of the reasons they may have used it to change the taste of the cough syrup. But it's very dangerous, supposed to be used only for industrial purposes. You would have seen it in antifreeze agents or brake fluids.
Okay. In fact, let's bring up a graphic where we are talking about what is diethylene glycol. So just for the benefit of our viewers, if we can just bring up that graphic so that we can explain what this is all about. Well, the key issue is that diethylene glycol is, according to a new book, The Truth Pill, which has just come out, it's a powerful industrial solvent used to make brake fluid. It's never been used in the manufacture of medicine. If it has, then that's wrong. It can be fatal if consumed by humans. It causes kidneys to fail. That can eventually lead to death. Children tend to suffer more in cases of DEG or diethylene glycol poisoning. Dr. Sunila Garg, what about regulation in our country? Yes, there's a show cause notice that's taken place, but this begs the question, if so many discrepancies have now been found, what were government regulators doing earlier?
It's definitely a very important question. But before, I like to say that it is the propylene glycol which is used, and this is used as a contaminant actually, because propylene glycol is very expensive. That's how, when you talked about the issue of diethylene glycol or ethylene glycol, which is, basically neurotoxic, which is also renal toxic, and symptoms begin with abdominal pain and all. That's where, the manufacturers use these cheap, substances which are contaminated with these glycol agents, which can lead to toxicity. Now, coming to the validation of, number one thing is, it is very important that all these cough syrups have been under scanner for a long period of time. Earlier, with in context of codeine and all that, which are narcotic substances. So the role of, it is not only CDSCO which has to come, but it is the pharma companies which have to, first of all, declare all their products. But we cannot, say that our state drug controller organizations can, just take a easy way out. We have to screen every product, and especially when we are dealing with, the items which are manufactured, the sample 10, in fact, in the protocol, 10% of these samples have got to be tested for all the products, and all products have to be declared in black and white, what the substance is containing. And particularly when we are dealing with cough syrups, as I told you earlier, they are containing opiates, they are containing codeine-like substances. Now this is, propylene glycol. So, and also, we cannot say that we have to do a sample check of all the drugs, and we need to take this matter very seriously with not only with CDSCO. CDSCO basically is going to deal with the blood products, vaccines, and all that, genetic products and all that, but it cannot escape its role. But immediate role is of the state drug controller organization, which along with the pharma company, has to take a very important step as to how many, whichever pharma companies are making whatever drugs they are making, they have to undergo a quality check. Because when I was looking after the drugs part, I realized that, many times I used to get that this sample is not, according to the quality. So whole batch of this, whether it is syrup or it is the tablets, they need to be removed after market. And particularly with regard to vaccines also, we were quite very particular. So that is where the role comes right from the manufacturer.
Ma'am, it's interesting that you should say this, because, top official sources from the health ministry commenting on this issue today, and it's sad that they aren't on record actually saying this, said if 4 samples failed, and they were talking about the Gambia situation, how can the entire batch be blamed? This is a dangerous explanation. If 4 samples fail, of course you withdraw the entire batch, because there is no system to test every vial of medication. If a batch is found to be defective, 4 samples, obviously you withdraw the entire batch.
Yes,
Is it
definitely,
right
this is
for the
very
government to say if 4 samples failed, how can the entire batch be blamed?
No, four of these drugs, they need to be particularly removed. But at the same time, we need to check other drugs also, because
Sure,
you see,
exactly.
yeah, definitely we need to see for the contents and all that, because this is an eye opener. India is a big country. We are very diverse, and we need to,
No, but again, Dr. Garg, just sorry to interrupt you, but in as much as you say that it's an eye-opener, and of course it is, because people don't care about this, let me bring up a graphic on major drug poisoning events in India to make the point that this shouldn't be an eye-opener. We should all be aware of what the situation is. So let's get that graphic up, and it goes back to 5 major drug poisoning events in India. Number 1, way back in 1972, Madras, 15 children died after consuming a cough syrup. It was adulterated with diethylene glycol. 1986, 14 patients died after consuming adulterated glycerine. It had been adulterated with what? Diethylene glycol. 1988, Bihar, 11 patients killed because of diethylene glycol poisoning. 1998, Gurgaon, 33 children aged 2 months to 6 years, absolutely young children, babies and very young kids, killed. The cough syrup was found adulterated with diethylene glycol. 2019, Jammu, 9 children died due to adulterated cough syrup. I don't know what the chemical which was. And now this has taken place. They're saying 66 in Gambia. So ma'am, my humble submission is that all of us should be talking about this, and this shouldn't catch us by surprise.
Absolutely. And this is very important point, because these are used, the cough syrups are made sweetened so that children can take. So that, it is very important to see what is the sweetener which is used, which you mentioned in between, the glycerin was used and all that. But then these are, adulterated. Common, the quality of these, diluents needs to be monitored very carefully. And also, so that's why commonly it is the diethylene glycol or the ethylene glycol which becomes, kind of a contaminant, because the propylene glycol becomes very expensive for the country. So that's where, and the countries for the companies, they shy away from mentioning all the components. But we need to take this situation very, very seriously.
Sure.
And, randomly the samples should be checked for the other syrups also which are available, so as to make sure that they are not available under different names. And though, we always say that it is the, responsibility of the country which is importing to check for the quality, but it is also very important when India is the world pharmacy, we need to see that our systems are in order with proper quality checks and, all the, complete, clear, transparent, mention is there of all the
in fact,
components.
Absolutely. I just want to go quickly across to DP Kaushik, spokesperson of the Haryana BJP. Thanks, Mr. Kaushik, for being with us. What was going on with this company, Maiden Pharmaceuticals? That 12 points are there in your show cause notice. We did, of course, reach out to them again to be part of this program. No response. But, sir, were you not monitoring this company earlier on?
देखिए सर, जैसे ही आज पता चला हमारे इंस्पेक्टर वहां से इसकी तरफ से उनको शोकस नोटिस इशू कर दिया कंपनी को। वाकई बहुत खतरनाक बात थी कि कोई भी चीजें वहां पे मेंशन नहीं है। तो गवर्नमेंट का पहले ही रूल बना हुआ है कि सारी चीजें एवरीथिंग, चाहे डेट हो, चाहे मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हो, चाहे आपका कोई भी कंपनी कंपोजिशन हो, सब कुछ डिस्प्ले करना होता है। लेकिन कंपनी की लापरवाही है और कंपनी को उसका मेडिकल जो लाइसेंस हो वो भी उसका मुझे लगता है रद्द कर दिया गया। नहीं किया होगा तो मॉर्निंग तक उसको रद्द कर दिया जाएगा। तो ये सब तो चीजें गलत है। कंपनी को इस पर भारी एक्शन सरकार की तरफ से लिया जाएगा, हेल्थ डिपार्टमेंट की तरफ से भी। बहुत ही ज्यादा गलत इस तरह की एक्टिविटी।
कौशिक जी, आप एक इंपॉर्टेंट बात कह रहे हैं। आप कह रहे हैं कि इस कंपनी का लाइसेंस को रद्द किया जाएगा। इस पे डिसीजन लिया गया है, क्या अभी भी शो कॉज नोटिस का प्रोसेस जारी रहेगा?
शो कॉज नोटिस तो ऑलरेडी दे दिया गया है। इसका एक्शन जो अभी आप ये रिप्लाई क्या देते हैं, उसके बाद अगर प्रॉपर कंपनी को ठीक नहीं लगा गवर्नमेंट को, तो लाइसेंस बिल्कुल रद्द कर दिया जाए।
और कौशिक साहब, फिलहाल जो टेस्ट किए गए हैं, मतलब जो भी दवाइयां बनाए जा रहे थे उनमें जो केमिकल्स है, उसका रिजल्ट, उसका नतीजा अभी तक आया नहीं है, करेक्ट?
इसलिए सर नोटिस देने के बाद अभी कंपनी की तरफ से क्या आता है, क्या उनकी रिपोर्ट्स आती है, क्या वो लोग रिप्लाई करते हैं, उसके बाद गवर्नमेंट देखिए इस तरह कोई भी कंपनी हो, चाहे कोई किसी तरह का व्यापार हो, लोग बिल्कुल बर्दाश्त नहीं करेंगे। जीरो टॉलरेंस पे सरकार काम कर रही है और ये तो बहुत ही गलत, जिस तरह की जो काम कर रहे थे कि कोई डेट मेंशन नहीं है, कंपोजिशन मेंशन नहीं है, तो ये सब चीजें बर्दाश्त नहीं करेगी हरियाणा सरकार।
Okay. Dr. Mannan, again, and I asked this question a few days back discussing the same issue. What do you tell a parent, looking to try and help their child who has a cough? Do you give a cough syrup or not?
Such an important question you have asked. I am happy you have asked this question. The most important answer, like if it's a seasonal cough, it's a under the weather cough, my answer is your child does not need any medicines. Simple answer. Do just home remedies. A little bit of honey, a ginger tea, steam inhalation, saline gargles, that's more than enough to take care of a normal viral cough or a seasonal cough. If it's not getting sorted out with that, then you need to see the doctor. Then it's not a common cold or a viral cough. I want to tell you something very interesting. I was going through a publication in Indian Pediatrics in 2009. They have taken about 17 studies from Cochrane, 625 studies to see whether cough syrups are actually helpful or not. The resultant of that was cough syrups are nothing more than a placebo.
Right.
Cough is just a symptom of a disease which is there inside your body, maybe from the lungs, maybe from the throat, maybe from your heart, maybe from the gastrointestinal system. We need to treat the cause, not the symptoms. Cough is a defensive mechanism of the body that needn't be treated. Treat the cause. So the answer is, I will never ask my patient to take a cough syrup. If you ask my patient, I'll never tell them. I'll say just do home remedies. If the symptoms are not subsiding, come to the doctor. You are not supposed to buy it from the counter and give it to your child. That's a dangerous thing, especially in India where such varied combination cough syrups are available in the market and so easily that anybody can buy it, and it's a dangerous trend. I think this has to stop.
Chinu Srinivasan, is it enough for the government at the center to say that, look, Gambia should have tested these drugs which they have imported from India, when in fact we have got a system of licensing drugs for export? In other words, our Drugs Controller General of India and officers associated with him have actually said that this is cleared for export. So is it enough for us to pass the buck and say, Gambia, you should have tested before you administer this medication?
First of all, it is not very clear on what basis the government of India has cleared this particular company for export, especially considering its track record. It has been blacklisted by several states in India, and also it had some problems in Vietnam. And you're reading from that chart sheet,
yes,
number 11. It says that the firm has not performed the quality testing of propylene glycol for diethylene glycol and ethylene glycol.
Yep.
Propylene glycol is a solvent which is used, and the basic thing is the company has not tested any good manufacturer as to this is a basic ABCD of in a syrup, making a syrup. You have to test for the presence of diethylene glycol and ethylene glycol. They haven't done this basic thing, and if they had done the testing and they had found the presence of diethylene glycol and this thing and the other one, and they should have stopped manufacturing and got a better sample, a better batch of the solvent propylene glycol. The problem is also that this company probably has not used pharma grade propylene glycol. If they had used pharma grade propylene glycol, these chances of it being contaminated is far less. But still, the company has to test it before you actually mix it in the with whatever active ingredient you have. So this basic thing the company hasn't done. It has violated it. For this alone, its license can be cancelled. And not only cancelled, the deaths which have been attributed to this syrup, whether it happened in India or it happened in Namibia, Section 27A, small a of the Drugs and Cosmetics Act provides for fine up to 10 lakhs and even imprisonment up to for lifetime imprisonment.
Yeah.
And they should have considered this. Considering the track record, I don't know how they gave a license, the COPP for the government of India, which means the government of India, which means the CTACO has not done its homework on this particular company.
And so therefore, Dr. Dabade, where is the accountability in this? You know, we are discussing all of this, but in terms of regulation at the highest level, besides making cursory sounds about, oh, you know, we are testing and, you know, action will be taken, this is a system which has evidently failed. It's a flop show that the World Health Organization has to go and tell us that, look, drugs manufactured in your country have to be withdrawn because many children have probably died consuming them. What does this actually say about us at a time when we are marketing ourselves as the pharmacy of the world?
Yeah, I think it's really a very big, major mistake on the part of the regulatory authorities of India. We have failed miserably. The government of India and the regulatory authorities have failed miserably, and this is a failure that I'm still wonderstruck that they are waiting the company to respond to whatever has happened. I mean, the whole world is knowing. The WHO has asked. And as Chinu Srinivasan said, severe penalty should have been done, and they should have been imprisoned. And we are still waiting for them to get back. I really don't understand. I think the regulatory mechanism has utterly failed in our country, because the bottom line is business and money, and more of that only. That is the problem.
Dr. Sunila Garg, you know, it's tragic that in our country, we pop medicines like they are candy. You know what the situation with antibiotics is. But given this reality, is this something that's restricted to just cough syrups, or do we need to be alert to other drugs potentially being spurious?
I think that is where we need to be very, very vigilant. And that's where the State Drug Controller General of India needs to be very watchful. And we have even drug controller at the district level also. If I was to say, if let's say district Gautam Budh Nagar, which has got 3,000 pharmacy shops, regularly the checks has got to be there, you know, from the district drug controller general also, to see that, you know, what kind of drugs are being sold over the counter, whether, you know, they are sold with a prescription, because we are dealing with many variety of drugs, whether it is B drugs or it is H1 drugs, which are, you know, the antibiotics and all that. So we need to be very, very careful. We need to be very vigilant. Another thing which I'll like to say with regard to cough syrups and all that, we should not be distributing them over the counter, as has been mentioned by Dr. Manan also, that, you know, for pediatric drugs and formulations, we have to be extremely very careful. But one message has to go from this platform to the public, that please do consult a healthcare provider. Basically, if there is anything which needs to, do not take drugs by yourself. But we need to be very vigilant with regard to the quality of drugs. That is very important, especially when India, you yourself mentioned that we are a world pharmacy. We know that we are a world pharmacy. So quality becomes of utmost importance, and time to time, you know, checking is important. Whether this company was supposed to manufacture these four cough syrups were supposed to be manufactured or not, they are also under concern. So the companies, pharmaceutical companies, supposed to manufacture those which it has declared, for which the permission has been obtained, and for which, you know, the quality checks are required, and everything needs to be displayed in black and white, that what is it containing.
I think a lot more needs to be done on looking at the chemical composition of the drugs which have been withdrawn in Gambia, and comparing it with the chemical composition of some of the drugs, including cough syrups, marketed by this company in India, where the names are irrelevant. The name of the drug is not irrelevant. It's the chemical composition which matters. And if the chemical composition is found to be identical, then at least we would know that that a similar drug was used in India. That isn't to suggest that it's wrong or spurious, but it certainly would raise important questions. One final question to you, Chinu Srinivasan. The question is this: as far as this company is concerned, in the immediate run, what needs to be done? Should action be restricted to just these cough syrups, or do we need to look at everything that they manufacture?
Well, what needs to be done is what they've already done is a good thing, what you're reading from. And they have been given 1 week's notice. But my hunch is that from the kind of things they have pointed out, this company had tried to fudge the cover up the the data which they are supposed to have. And there are a lot of contradictions which the chart sheet has pointed out. So the company should be basically the company and the person who has supplied this solvent, all of them should be put under the dock, whatever the law permits for them to be put under the dock. But unfortunately, I'm afraid this will not be done in our system, because I've seen in my 40 years of manufacturing, hardly any manufacturer who's even done the most grievous this thing, been arrested or gone to jail. And although
because some of the fines are ridiculous, pay 1,000 rupees and get away with it. I'm told that in some cases the fines are ridiculous. They are a joke.
Yeah. Now, and also, I think the Kokate committee, which went into FDCs, had questioned some of these medicines which the company is making. So I wonder how the drug controller or who the regulatory authorities even gave a license for these medicines as cough syrup.
Okay.
And lastly, the pediatrician gentleman who has said this about IAP declaring all these cough syrups as totally useless. I would request the Indian Academy of Pediatrics to pressurize the government to ban these cough syrups totally from this country.
I think we'll end this program with this scary thought. How many children have actually died in our country consuming spurious cough syrups or other medication, while nobody really knew what the cause of actual death was? It's taken an investigation by the World Health Organization in Western Africa and Gambia to come out with the truth on a particular batch of medication. But what is the situation here? Are we actually losing lives of children and others because the regulation is so lax? That's a larger question. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much for being with us.